Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two fearsome competitors. On the left-hand side, we do have the mighty Consul of Rome taking the forces of the Empire up against Kronor and his Norscan legions. This is an old-school grudge match as good takes on evil, both in the form of mankind. Now, it looks like we have two very interesting builds, a few units you wouldn't necessarily expect to see, but also some of the old classics which are fantastic in this matchup. So let's load in here and have a quick little look at the builds. So, for the forces of the Empire, we have a nice little skirmish corps over here on the left-hand side with a couple of pistoliers. These guys are cheap and cheerful, but also very effective up against lightly armoured troops. And if one thing the Norscans have in abundance, it is lightly armoured troops. Also in the vanguard, we have the mighty Marcus Wolfhart. He is the Lord today for the forces of the Empire. Coming in, of course, with his Hunter Snare, a very powerful net. Any net ability or any slow in multiplayer tends to be very, very competitive and good. We also have a couple of Free Company Militia, a unit you don't get to see terribly often. These guys are a hybrid close quarters infantry unit. They've got their little pistols as well as their cutlasses. It looks like we have a few of them dotted around the battlefield. We also, in the main battle line, have some halberdiers, as well as Sigma Sons, as well as flagellants, those crazy lunatics of the Sigma reign himself. These guys, Unbreakable Frenzy, can do a decent job, as well as the Unbreakable Sigma Sons. Going to make a pretty tough core for the force of the Empire. They're also protecting another unit of Halberdiers, as well as the Silver Bullets, Regiment of Renowned Handgunners, who have Stalk, so a really nice pick here. But in the woods, this is where the real damage is going to be dealt. Knights of the Blazing Sun are fantastic up against Norsca. Of course, they come with that fire damage, making them a perfect counter to Skinwolves, which pretty much counters everything else in the Empire force. So a must-have in this matchup, in my opinion. With some more halberdiers hidden in the forest, and the Hammer of Witches, very elegantly placed here by Consul of Rome. I think it's going to have a little trouble with line of sight, but maybe not. They're kind of shooting in between the trees for the most part. Excellent positioning all round, and it looks like that's going to be it for the forces of the Empire. Apart from up in the skies, we do have an Amber Wizard, a wizard which is certainly underpicked in my opinion. Simply coming in with that transformation of Kadon and the blood roll there for that -8 leadership can be very potent and scary all round. But yeah, a spellcaster which can cause terror, has decent speed and fantastic 40 melee attack. On such a mighty beast means he can pack a punch. Real big fan of him up in the skies there. Now for the force of Norsca, who are currently getting obliterated by some pistolier shots. We have a ton of marauders into the sunset. Cheap, cheerful, always down for a good old scrap, especially up against those weak little manlins. Up in the skies, we have a Feral Manticore who may get shot by the pistoliers here and attempt to rampage him. We have Armoured Skinwolves. What is this madness? Often you see Skinwolves in battle, but certainly not the armoured variety. These guys look incredibly gangster with that thick armour dotted around them, and nothing quite screams badass like a werewolf. Always prefer them to vampires, in my opinion. We also have a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire who has been hit with a Hunter Snare, Burning Head, Scroll of Shielding, and Marcus Wolfhart here. Not Marcus Wolfhart, Wulfric the Wanderer, there we go, on his mighty steed, and it looks like he is getting netted by Marcus. And over on the flank, we have another unit of Armoured Skinwolves, as well as a Skinwolf Werekin. So without further ado, let's get this battle underway. So it looks like a bit of an assassination attempt is going to come down on the left-hand side. Free Company Militia have been spotted, and the Skinwolves probably going to jump on them and feast quite happily. They've got to be a bit careful, though, of those Knights of the Blazing Sun. Marcus Wolfhart doing a great job so far on Wulfric, slowly shooting him down from long range, before falling back. Now, there is a Feral Manticore coming in to try and finish the job, but a really nice counter-punch by Consul of Rome, bringing up that Feral Manticore to try and counter the other Manticore. So Manticore Violence. Over here, looks like we do have some Marauder Horsemasters who I missed earlier, 3 units in fact, and these guys are an absolute staple in most Norscan builds, coming forward, trying to get some damage where they can for free, but they're going to get counter-shot now by pistoliers. And in the back, we did have some vanguarding Warhounds. We have Norscan Warhounds darting in the trees, as well as ones trying to hop on top of the Silver Bullets, and now these are the Beasts of Tashnar, although lovely play by Consul Rome, pulling himself through his halberdiers, who are going to pin the beasts in place, while the pistoliers wreak havoc down that flank. In the woods, these Norscan Warhounds tried darting on top of the Hammer of Witches, but got countercharged by the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who did spring that trap. Looks like more Knights have darted in the front line. Fantastic job by dodge by Consul Rome here in the back, and moving up his Unbreakable troops to help protect the Free Company Militia. I've faced Consul Rome a number of times, and he's an absolute nightmare to get into his back line. He can keep back line online way longer than it should do. Knights of the Blazing Sun do charge in, get a little bit of friendly fire from their own cannon, and are struggling up against Wulfric there. Oh my god, Wolfhart and Wulfric together on the same battlefield, scrambling my mind. Feral Manticore has been dealt with here by the summoned one, although the Armoured Skinwolves are now happily feasting on it, surrounding it and dragging it down. And it looks like the Amber Wizard got caught up there and deleted by the Skinwolves. So big loss here straight away. No caster for the force of the Empire is certainly going to put them on the back foot. But another lovely dodge once again off the Burning Head, getting all his troops out of the way. Marauders have been finished off by the lovely burst damage from those shock cavalry. Skinwolves trying to get in and hunt down Wolfheart here, but they're going to have a rough time. Silver Bullets are slightly obstructed by this hill, which is a bit of a nightmare for them. However, a lovely Hunter Snare with the combined charge of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. These Skinwolves are going to have a really, really bad time. You can see their health is getting absolutely destroyed and they're breaking immediately. Although Consul of Rome needs to make sure he chases these guys off, otherwise they will regenerate and come back to bite him later on. In the forest, it looks like it's a bit of a mismatched fight here, as Halberdiers desperately trying their best to drag down these armoured Skinwolves, but they've got decent stats all around the Skinwolves, despite the fact they are large up against the anti-large troops. They're simply going to pull through and charge into the Knights of the Blazing Sun, which isn't the worst matchup. Yes, they have the fire damage, but if you can get the charge on the Knights, they are far less impactful than if they themselves do come in with that lovely shock damage they get, although they're still doing a decent job in the sustained fight. In the back line, it looks like we are going to get a Burning Head coming down on the Free Company Militia. I think the first one Consul Rome has actually missed, so really nice play though. The Norscans constantly putting pressure on. They're getting shut out of the back quite often, really struggling to shut down the Silver Bullets as well as that cannon, but still going at it time and time again, trying to stress the Empire's micro. Balance power is now in favour of the Norsca, and they have a lovely little surround coming on. You can see wrapping all the way around, and the Ferromanticore has revived himself. It looks like Wulfric the Wanderer, got his name right to this time, is struggling a little bit in the trees. He's forcing off that Knights of the Blazing Sun unit, who are very close to the edge of the board, but taking damage the entire time from the Free Company Militia. He is getting very, very low on health, and of course, Norsca don't have any way of healing, apart from some of their regenerating units. These Armoured Skinwolves just vibing in the trees right now. Free Company Militia certainly want to turn around and fire into them, try and break their leadership where they can and force them off, as that Ferromanticore does come in for one last farewell. Hopping on top of the Hammer of Witches, trying to do some damage, but a lovely sniper cross by Marcus does manage to shatter the Ferromanticore. It looks like he did destroy one of the cannons before he managed to get up into the air. Skinwolf working is struggling a little bit here, surrounded by these dogged halberdiers. They're certainly going to be able to poke him down, do some nice damage. You can see they're trying to block him in here. Stand your ground, men of the Empire, just as I say that they get flung around and forced over, which is a good play here. You want to get the Skinwolf as far away as possible, but just as I say that, counter punch by a Hunter Snare. Nice shots coming in from Marcus, and the halberdiers are going to be able to catch him. Over here, Knights of the Blazing Sun charging, rescuing these halberdiers who are getting completely swamped at the moment by missile cavalry as well as the Marauders, really struggling to hold the lines. But this Knights of the Blazing Sun has been dancing all around the battlefield, bobbing and weaving, and it looks like though the fight of the ages is about to come in. But no, the Knights of the Blazing Sun counter-punch the mighty Wulfric just as Marcus has Hunter Champions placed on him. Lovely play there to protect their lord. He now should be able to shoot in while the Hunter Champions does wear off. Marcus desperately running for the hills at this point. It looks like some more of the Horse Masters have found themselves in combat as well up against the Knights of the Blazing Sun, who are slowly getting dragged down as more and more units do pile into them. Skinwolves are here for the scrap. The Hammer of Witches has finally been shut down, but not before it did some pretty decent work. We'll have to check his damage stats at the end of the game. Marcus Wolfheart as well has a ton of ammunition, surviving in this central pocket somehow, launching shot after shot into those Skinwolves. In the back line, we have one unit of halberdiers desperately holding back a tide of Norscans, fighting back-to-back, surrounded against the enemies of Sigma, and then holding and winning, it seems. Oh no, they are indeed routing, or they almost managed to break another unit, and this is going to open this back pocket for the Norscans to flood in. We do have one unit of Pistolets in the distance who really needs to come back and start applying some pressure to the Norscan forces. In the distance, we can see Marauders are running, and the nasty Norscan Lord as well has fled the field. Hammer of Witches is going to be able to get back online, but Marcus Wolfheart is completely surrounded at this point by Marauder Horse Masters. Good micro here by the Norscan play. You don't need to shoot him if you can just surround him. He has pretty pitiful melee stats, and it looks like they're going to be able to do a good job, perhaps break his leadership. But the Hammer of Witches crew is darting back to their artillery piece. If they can shoot through these horsemen, that is going to do insane damage. Elsewhere, the Empire really struggling at this point, as the Marauder flank, which should loop all the way up and around, is really hammering them home. But the Hammer of Witches is lining up some glorious shots to hit these horse masters. Will Marcus Wolfheart hold long enough? He is very, very low morale-wise, Come on, guys, shoot that cannon, do some huge damage, perhaps. Maybe. Oh, it looks like they are trying to line one up, and bam! Down they go! And you see horses and men fly in all different directions, although Marcus is incredibly low morale at this point, perhaps too late, as the balanced power is heavily against the Empire forces. But as those cannon shots do rain in, the horse masters are wavering themselves. This is a pivotal moment. If Marcus Wolfhart goes down here, it is certainly game over for the Empire, and even if he survives, it's looking a little bleak. Halberdiers desperately trying their best to hold back the Marauders, doing a decent job though, very heroic display from them so far, but in the distance the armoured Skinwolves are looping towards the battlefield. One unit of Horse Masters has been dragged in as well to help shut down the Hammer of Witches. I would even take the Skinwolves and just finish off this artillery crew. There is no need to leave it alive, and if the Skinwolves, you know, are fighting a cheap and cheerful, or not cheap and cheerful unit, an expensive unit, but a unit which isn't going to do much damage back to them, they're going to be regenerating this entire time. And it looks like though the Pistoliers, for a heroic charge into the Horse Masters, has managed to break them, and they're now going to be kiting backwards, shooting in, trying to do as much damage as possible. But Marcus is now surrounded by nasty, angry werewolves, and he's a huntsman, but he likes to do his hunting from afar rather than up close, and it looks like it is a revenge of the animals here who could claw in and tearing, rendering the flesh of Marcus, who's having a really poor time. It looks like he has indeed been shattered, and that is going to be game, but an incredibly awesome one, a nearly comeback as well. I love the Hammer of Witches attempt at shooting through as Marcus held the enemy at bay, but eventually the brave men of the Empire were clawed to pieces. Looks like we just have two of Sigmar's most devoted troops here in the centre trying their best, but completely swarmed at the moment by nasty, scary, Viking-esque warriors, and that's going to be a valiant defeat for the forces of the Empire. Brilliant game by both players. Massive shout out to Consul of Rome as well as Cronor. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up. It really helps push it out to more people, and subscribe if you haven't already. We do drop Total War Warhammer content every single day, and we have 2 streams coming up this week. One on Wednesday at 7:30 PM GMT, and a tournament the next day, which will be a relatively similar time, probably a bit earlier. Harder to tell because it is a tournament, so when we get to the quarterfinals, we shall be casting it. If you want to get involved in those events, or just hang out with a load of cool dudes, or send me replays, feel free to join my Discord. There's a link down below, or support the channel via Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube channel member. More links in the description. But anyway, fantastic game by both of these players. I absolutely love this Empire build. It's really badass, and the Amber Wizard is a bit of an inspired pick. Unfortunately, here, this is kind of a situation of Norsca showing their power of swarming. As soon as he landed, trying just to get some free damage, those Skinwolves in a flash were on him, and when he's surrounded by Skinwolves, he simply doesn't have the mass to pull through the very scary troops, and got dragged down. And the Empire did a fantastic job considering they didn't have their cast for the majority of the battle. They still got one of his Manticore summons off, but imagine one more Manticore summon probably could have turned the tide. As for Marcus Wolfhart, he was fine consistently the majority of the game. And as I said about before, Consul of Rome is so frustrating to play against. Those are the biggest compliment you can really give a player, because his back line is just impossible to shut down. There's always knights darting to and forth. Every time you earn something, and you finally do hop on top of those silver bullets, he's going to drag you through some anti-large troops, and all of a sudden it's a terrible trade for you. And you can see that here with that 7.7k damage dealt, and 2,000 damage value from Marcus is certainly some good work. Interesting use of the Halberdiers as well, a unit hopefully we'll be seeing more and more of now that they have been improved, and they did a decent job all round. You can see this unit kind of struggled, but the other one making up 1,400 damage value is pretty insane for a unit of Halberdiers. As for the Free Company Militia, they really did struggle quite a lot. I like the idea of trying to keep them in the woods so they can flank the main fighting force, or even pop into the rear, shut down javelins and so forth, but they were unfortunately found out a little bit early in those trees and slaughtered to the last man. Silver Bullets did some okay damage, but they really struggled from positioning. They kind of stuck behind that brow and couldn't really focus fire down the enemy too much. But this was really a battle of 2 different units of the Knights of the Blazing Sun. You can see one here which got just swarmed early on, still did some decent damage value and damage dealt, but struggled overall, eventually getting dragged down by those armoured Skinwolves. However, the second one, 11,000 damage dealt and cleared a ton of troops, 115 to be precise. A lovely counter to those Skinwolves, really performed quite nicely from them. Hammer of Witches as well, didn't get the crazy amount of kills, but again, fantastic damage value, hitting at those key targets. Looks like with the third unit of Halberdiers as well, didn't do too bad. Pistoliers themselves, not quite paying for themselves. As for Cronor's forces, I adore anyone who brings Skinwolves who are armoured. They're so badass. I don't know if I would ever really pick them myself too much. I think the added money isn't really worth it for the Skinwolves because you lose a little bit of speed. You do gain that armour, but you are slightly slower, which is a big problem because Skinwolves, their main advantage over a lot of enemy troops is their mobility, able to hit and run, regenerate when they do fall back. But it looks like they're proving me wrong a little bit here, getting some lovely damage value, 1,300 and 11,000 damage dealt. And they're about half health at this moment. Plenty of room as well to regenerate up. So still massive punch left in those ones. The other unit, only 3 kills, but again, on top of pretty key targets. Still got some fantastic damage value and damage dealt. 5,000 damage dealt. Scary stuff. Good play of the Hounds as well. Unfortunately for Kronor, they did get shut down by Halberdiers and Knights of the Blazing Sun, but good attempt as well to constantly put pressure. Every time he failed to break into the back line, he didn't deter and think, oh, you know what, I'm just going to try and win the front line. Nope, kept on going and going until eventually he dragged his way in to that back line of Consul, mainly just through sheer swarm of Marauders who aren't going to get the craziest damage value, but good damage dealt across the board, chewing their way through those Empire State troops. Same time, Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, a little bit unlucky. He kept on missing those burning heads, but mainly due to good micro. Not really anything Kronor can do about that. And it's interesting to see Wulfric the Wanderer. I keep wanting to call him Marcus. Wulfric the Wanderer on horseback instead of Mammoth. Of course, a lot less impact in the game than he would have had on his Mammoth, but way, way, way cheaper. Still getting some okay damage value and so forth. And then all the Horsemasters as well. Glorious play by them. Really out-skirmishing the Pistoliers. 6,000 damage here, 8,000 here, and 11,000 damage. A real key unit. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, peace. And as always, stay awesome.